Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Womb Wellness Summit. I am Stasha, the period coach, and I'm here today with my partner in crime, Grady, and Emily, who's going to be talking to us all about sex and cycles and libidos and tips. And I love a good, juicy, taboo topic. So between period, sex, and money, you've got my holy trinity. So this is going to be a real exciting one for me today. I hope you will be just as excited as I am. I'm going to pass it over to my partner in crime, Katie.
Thank you. I'm Katie Brusak, and I'm really excited to chat about this today because who doesn't want to have better sex, right? And really learn how to communicate and really be in your body. I think that's what is so important about the conversation that we're going to be talking about today, like female arousal, feeling more confidence in your body, and how that all plays into that experience and how to really feel that so much more than we might be feeling. So welcome, Emily. Thank you so much for joining us. And I know that Stash and I have our ears wide open and can't wait to hear everything that you have to share with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So why talk about sex? How did you get into this? What's your background? We'd love to kind of hear a little bit about that and how you came into this role in your life.
Yeah, absolutely. So my background is actually in dance and fitness, teaching Pilates. I was having a lot of postpartum women as clients in my Pilates practice. I knew the basics of what to do and what not to do, but I wasn't really getting the results that I was after. And right about that time, an acquaintance of mine who had really been diving into that work of how to essentially rehab postpartum women, she opened up a school. And this was part of that training. So I hopped on the phone with her and I was like, great, I'm going to come to the part where we learn how to bring abdominals back together and we learn how to rehab pelvic floors. And this was part of a larger sex education school. And she was like, well, you should probably come to the whole thing. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'll come. And that just blew my world apart in the best way possible. I learned things about my body, parts of my body that I didn't even know I had, which was so empowering and also so infuriating that I'd lived 30 some years and didn't know that. And just learning about the menstrual cycle and it totally changed my life. It changed my energy. I was carrying around so much less shame. And I just took that and ran with it. I was like, everyone needs to know, where's my megaphone? Sex education, here we go. And so that's how I got to where I am today.
Oh, I love that. I mean, Sasha and I talk about this often about the lack of just information, especially when it comes to women. I feel like my cousins were all given books, right? Safe sex books or have better sex books. My cousins were all reading that and nothing was ever given to me and my female cousins. So I also feel like there's that part of it, but even just the idea of having you on and us having a bigger conversation about it. So how do we start even diving into this for ourselves? Take us through kind of that. I don't want to call it a process because sex should not be a process, but
Yeah. I think a great place to start is to define or redefine sex. So what are we even talking about here? And I'll just start with saying that sexuality, it's the core of who we are. We can't separate ourselves out from it. It's where we all came from, right? It's how life is created. It's literally our core. So no matter how disconnected we are from it or how ashamed we are of it, it's never not there. So it's always a place that we can connect back to. We let ourselves learn, we do the work, but it's always there, and it's who we are. With that said, the information in the script we've been given culturally about sexuality is very narrow. and it doesn't work for a lot of us.
Mm.
So when this is being offered and we look at that and we're like, well, I don't want that. A lot of people think, well, then they're just not that sexual, or they just don't want sex, or because they know they want something else, they feel wrong or ashamed.
Mm.
And so just starting by, sex was defined by, a very narrow group of people, and it fits into a very narrow window. So we're just going to start to tease that open to include a lot more. And this kind of drops right into female arousal. And since this is a Womb Wellness Summit and, we're speaking to women here, this narrow definition of sex is actually from a male arousal trajectory. So that leaves out half the population. Of course.
That was going to be my comment, was we think of sex as from the male perspective. It's in, it's come, it's get out. And that there's no, that's not the point.
Yeah. Not at all.
Exactly. So we can have sex. That's another thing. We can have sex for many, many different reasons. But so from a female arousal perspective, so arousal, physiological arousal is essentially blood flow to the genitals. So all the erectile tissue in the vulva, in the genitals, completely filling and swelling with blood and coming into full engorgement. So just like a penis gets erect, a vulva gets a hard around. Now, this can take up to 45 minutes. Just letting that sink in for a second. For most women, it's from 25 to 45 minutes for all those erectile beds to become fully engorged.
I had no idea. I knew it took longer. I didn't realize that.
I'm sorry, I kind of missed that. I couldn't hear that last comment.
No, I was saying that I knew it took longer. I didn't realize it was much longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So male arousal goes from the inside out. It actually starts in the genitals and then becomes out into the periphery. Female arousal starts out in the periphery and then comes into the genitals. So it starts out in the context, what your mind even thinks is sexually appealing. Mm-hmm. And then it comes in through the periphery of our body. And then finally, 25 to 45 minutes later, all of our erectile tissue is engorged. And that's when, what we think of as sex, penetration, genital stimulation is going to feel good, is going to feel its best. If we're having genital stimulation and or penetration before that point, it can often like short circuit us and not feel that great. And it's that like, kind of feeling.
Does this include the internal, like the clitoris, from the external to the internal portion of the clitoris, as well as the vulva? And yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And within that erectile tissue, there's an order that things come on board. So some parts might feel better first, like the more external parts, like the clitoris, before you want to go into penetration. So still, that's like outside in, just within the pelvis itself.
Right. And penetration is not necessarily even necessary.
No, absolutely not. And so this whole idea that foreplay is one thing and sex is another thing, I'd like to really just eradicate that, because for female-bodied people, it's not optional, right? We need it all. We need it everything together, and everything else that comes before penetration, that can be included in sex. And as I map it on the menstrual cycle, you'll see that there's going to be times when like that is sexuality, that is sex. And it just opens up a whole world of possibility and exploration, right? Like, especially with people who've been together for a while, that's often the complaint. It's like, we're in the routine. It's getting boring. Well, if A doesn't equal B, C, D, we're done. It's like, let's open this up. What other colors are there? What other food is on the buffet?
I love that. And especially in relationships where penetration might be not available for whatever reason, maybe a same-sex partnership, maybe just something's not working on the male end, if there's a male-female relationship, or also just a sexual trauma on a woman's past where penetration is harmful or painful or can't happen for whatever reason, there's a vast amount of the population for which penetration is not a viable option. And that is always left out of the conversation about sex, where that's not, you can still get all of the benefits and the orgasms and the amazing juju and all that goodness from not having penetration. Like, that doesn't have to be included to be sexual.
Yeah,
absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up. And that also speaks to, like, who is this information for? You know, as I go through the menstrual cycle, it's not just for menstruating women. So this can also be used for women who aren't menstruating anymore, or for folks who identify as women but may not have all the same parts, or even for those who don't identify as women but have wombs and or vulvas. Like, so if you're not menstruating, you just follow the moon. So I'll put the moon phase in each bleeding phase as well. But, you know, just again, we can expand who this information is for.
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. I think that's so helpful.
Yeah. So dive in. Tell us about the 4 phases, and let's get juicy.
Wonderful. Great. So I'm going to start with the menstruation phase. So this is from the day you start bleeding until the day you stop bleeding. If you're following the moon, this is the dark moon, new moon time. And energetically, this is really a time of inwardness, of in and down, just like the energy of the blood is going down and out. We're, you know, very inward. And this is actually my favorite time of the cycle. And I think that if we honor this time, it can really set us up for more energy and more liveliness in the other parts of the cycle. So
I don't mean to interrupt you, but I do, because every woman I know who works with the cycles, like yourself, myself, Katie, all of the women I know that work with their cycles in a major way say the same thing. Menstruation is actually my favorite part of the cycle. And for me, that was the absolute most hellish part of my cycle for so long, that it took well after figuring out my symptoms and settling them for me to have that perspective change. But for those of you listening, all of the experts that I have ever spoken to say the same thing. The menstrual phase is my favorite part of the cycle. And I just love that you said that, Emily, because it really just drives that point home. Because now we're talking about not just business or not just hormones, not just symptoms, but now we're talking about sex. And here we are talking again about how it sets you up and how it can be the best part of the cycle. And I just needed to take a moment and acknowledge that.
Yeah. Thank you. Because that's a really good point. And I think because of the other women that might have similar histories as you, even hearing that, like, how do I even get there? But hopefully all the other interviews help everyone else kind of see that for themselves. But yeah, really, really good point.
Perspective shifting.
Definitely. Of course. Yeah. I mean, because at a young age, you're like, oh God, my period, I hate my period. And then once you start tapping in and understanding the power of that, it changes. I mean, it changed for me.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you, Emily.
Oh, yeah, no.
Carry on.
Thank you. It deserves to be highlighted. Just take that highlighter and yeah, absolutely. So a time of rest, a time of deep intuition. And, you know, we actually have, during the bleeding phase, we have the best communication between the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So I call this the oracle time, the time of the oracle, of the deep knowing. What this could look like sexually. For some women, they might choose to abstain from sex at this time, particularly penetrative sex, and just let the blood, you know, flow down and out, or let yourself be very internal and quiet and taking time for yourself. But for others, sex, particularly penetrative sex, can feel really good and juicy at this time because you have all the blood flow, which is wet and warm. So, you know, more at all times of the cycle, you know, I'm going to say and give you all these things, but really it's about you and listening to your body. But I'd actually say more than any other part of the cycle, this is the time to really listen to your body And if you really do that work here, it'll set you up for, more vitality in the rest of the cycle. And just the last thing about this phase is that there's really we have a deep connection to ourselves. We have nothing to hide. We're raw and we're not caretaking others. So it can be a great time to really tune into what feels good for me, as opposed to what do you want to do?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Totally.
Awesome. Should I just move on?
Yeah,
Yes.
keep going. I love it. I completely concur on that.
Yeah. Great. So now we're going to move into the pre-ovulation phase. So this is from the time that you stop bleeding until about 5 days before ovulation. If you're following the moon, this is the waxing moon time, where it's getting a little bit bigger and brighter every night. And just like the moon, it's getting a little bit bigger and brighter every night. We're getting a little bit more outward. So we come out of our cave and we look around, and our energy turns out. Archetypally, this is the time of the maiden, the young one of us. And so sexually, this can look like flirting and dating and being really exploratory and playful and fun and silly. And also you're going to feel more giving at this time. So estrogen is the I care about other people hormone. So you might feel, if you're partnered, you might feel more giving during this time. But I just really want to highlight the playfulness, the silliness, the exploration, the curiosity. So it's a great time to try new things.
Yeah, that's a great tip for that phase, for sure. I love that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also, it's people notice that you have a glow, and people notice. I always feel like my husband's if he should be tracking, hopefully, but because I send him alerts, but he always just compliments and just noticing different things, and I'm I haven't done anything different, but you just appear different as well. So that's kind of a cool place for dating and flirting with your partner.
Totally. Yeah. And then we move into ovulation. So ovulation's 1 day, but we can think of the phase about 5 days before to 1 day after, somewhere in that range. The moon phase is the full moon. And just like the moon is full and bright, this is a time of vitality and magnetism and confidence, and that real full feminine glow. And so sexually, this is often the most sexual time in the way that we, typically think of sex. You might feel a lot of seduction and passion. And this might be the time when penetration feels the best. So arousal at this time can come quicker, so we can get fully engorged at a faster time. And with the cervical fluid being, really egg whitey and a lot of it, that can also make penetration feel better with more lubrication. So if sometimes you like things hard and fast and hot, and this is probably that time.
Makes total sense. It's that fertile phase where you're just bring it on.
Yes. And just to say, this is the time that pregnancy will happen, whether you're trying or not trying. We should just put that in there. Yeah. And then, this is your fiercest sexual appetite. And then after ovulation, we move into premenstruation, or the waning moon. So seeing more of the shadow of the moon every night, getting a little smaller and darker. And this is when our petals start to close in a little bit more, and we come back to our more inward time. We might feel a little bit more emotionally sensitive and detail oriented and have just a little bit more awareness of what's working and what's not working.
Mm.
So the way this can look sexually is, I like to call it slow sex. And this is where like full body, full being, what else is there besides genitals, is a really great time to dive into that. So this can be, more cuddles or more time holding or touching. It's going to take the genitals more time to get into that full arousal place. So just being slower and listening and just, more intimacy during this time, I would suggest.
I like that.
Yeah. Me too. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that I think in those communication moments where you can, if you have a partner where you can communicate that, we just need a little more time here before we move into the next phase. It can make such a huge difference in the outcome of that event.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's like, what makes great sex? And I'd say the number one ingredient is just presence, mindfulness, like the same things that we talk about in life, with meditation and everything we do. It's the same in sex. It's no different.
Yeah.
But that can be really hard because often there's so much sensation and overwhelm that we get wrapped up. Often, we have patterns that we get into. So just A, B, C, D, O, then we're done.
Mm-hmm.
There's different traumas. We have traumas from our past that kind of put us in a bit of a freeze state, and we're not fully aware in the moment. So there's a lot of reasons why it's hard to be present during sex. But that's ultimately what's going to lead to great sex.
I feel like a lot of women are doing the to-do list in their head. I hear that a lot from my clients. They're like, God, I could be doing like X, Y, and Z right now. And instead I'm here. So I love that you it's so true though.
I know. No, it is 100%
Yeah.
true. You're totally right about that. And just kills me how that's just so.
Yeah. Like brain goes, I know. And it obviously like, if, I mean, it's happened to me, and obviously I'm not going to be as aroused when I'm thinking about like the groceries. Like that's not going to make me feel more confident, more sexual or anything. But I hear that a lot from my friends and clients. So do you have any tips about that? Kind of helping women get out of their heads and more into their bodies when it's actually happening.
Yeah, absolutely. That is like the number one thing. And, to me, that sounds like perhaps the sex that's happening right in that moment is like not that exciting for that person. It's not exciting enough for them to check out. But what I would suggest is, I'll just bring us into what it's like to track sensations in our body. And so those times where we find ourselves checking out and going out, that's when we're going to want to come back in and be like, wait, what does this actually feel like in my body? From there, we'll decide what we're feeling in our body. Is that a yes or a no? And then from that place, we make those moment to moment choices like, yes, okay, let me go into this more, or no, hey, I'm actually feeling like this right now. How about we try something else? So, that sound good?
I love it.
Yeah, I like that.
I do. I like, just right off the bat, just the idea of checking in with your body, because that's what we're not checking in with our body when we're thinking about the to-do list. And we've separated head from body. So anything that brings us down into the body is like a huge winner for me.
Yeah, definitely. All right. I'll make sure everyone listens to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so you know, our mind literally moves at a faster pace than our body. So that's why it's so easy to like live up here where this is like the pace of life. And to notice the body, you have to slow down. So along with that, like presence equals great sex. To get to presence, we need to slow down and even pause, you know? And so, yeah, with that, I'll lead us into our bodies now so we can start
Oh, yes,
to
please.
understand what
Yeah.
feeling our bodies is even like.
Let's do it.
All right. So you can, I would suggest taking your eyes away from the screen. You don't have to close them. You can, or just kind of bring them to an inward gaze. And just start by noticing your sit bones on your seat or wherever your body is touching a support below you. Perhaps your feet on the floor. And then just noticing the breath. And where the breath lands in the body. You don't need to change this, but just name that to yourself. Start teaching yourself to feel something enough to be able to name it. Do you feel weight in your sit bones? Does it feel heavy? Does it feel light? Does it feel medium? You might not know, but just take a guess and name it. And now I want you to think of something you would really like right now. So that could be a nice, cool beverage, or laying on a warm, sandy beach, or perhaps the smell of a rose, finding something that you would really like right now. Imagining that and seeing how your body is responding. It'll probably be subtle. Notice what it is and name it for yourself, to yourself. So I notice my chest expanding. And letting that thought go. Feeling your sit bones again. Now think of something you really would not like right now. Perhaps ice water dumped on your head, or the smell of garbage, something that would not feel good right now. And notice how your body is responding. Those subtleties of shape or tension or energy or breath change. Letting that thought go. Noticing your breath once more, your sit bones. And when you feel ready, you can blink your eyes open, look around your space, anchor yourself back in your place in the here and now. And then coming back to your screen. So this is relevant during sex in that if you find yourself in some moment where you're checking out, you come in, notice your body, try to name some things. And then if you're not sure if you want something, see how your body's responding. Are you more in that yes place, whatever that is for you? Are you more in that no place? And then the next step is being able to get the words out. And I know that's a hard step too, but if you communicate how you feel in your body, I feel a little contracted right now. How about we try something else? That's really, that usually doesn't have that other person have a big reaction, because it's not like, no, you're doing it wrong. It's just like, I'm feeling contracted. Could we try something else? Like, that doesn't feel very accusatory.
Yeah, I like that. There's definitely a difference between that expansion feeling of something good and that contracted. Like for me, it felt very oppressive, just real tight and constricted feeling of the thing that was just like, ugh, do not
Yeah,
want
like
that
a
right
pit
now.
at the bottom of my stomach.
Yeah.
I could like feel that heaviness.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, and those cues will be different for everyone, but generally it's that same, like something is expanded or up, or something is like heavy or down or contracted in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I liked the tip of just a way of saying it that's not going to end the invent necessarily.
Yeah.
It's hard to do. It's hard to do, especially
Yeah.
when you have sensitive partners or, egos are at play very much so in the bedroom. And it's tough to find that way. I do like the idea of, like, as you were saying earlier, just sort of setting up the situation and just saying, I know that this is going to take a little bit longer for me right now to get into that place, and being able to, I mean, I've had a lot of sex in my life, and I have yet to meet somebody who doesn't want to hear this, or, like, nobody wants to hear like, oh my God, you're totally doing this wrong, you're terrible. But I have yet to come across somebody who doesn't want to hear like, that felt really good, can we do more of that?
Yeah.
Or, oh, that's my cervix, we're going to need to switch this up a little bit. Or, just I have yet to meet somebody who doesn't like appreciate some well-intentioned direction to make this a better experience for everybody. And frankly, if your partner doesn't want this to be a good experience for you, that's a whole nother conversation.
Yes. We won't be having that
That's
today,
not
but
how it should be. Your partner should be on your team.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that.
Yeah, I love it. That's such a great tip and such a really good thing, because I think that's where we get stuck a lot as women, is we don't want to be critical in bed, but we're told we need to ask for what we want, and how do you do one without the other? So I love that practical example that you just gave.
Definitely. And how share with everyone your free gift, because I think it will really help everyone that's listening as well to kind of see how next steps for them.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So I'm very excited about this. It's one of my most favorite things to teach. And it's going to be a free webinar called Female Anatomy of Arousal. So I get it's going to be anatomy and physiology. I'm going to have my anatomy slides. You're going to learn all of your arousable parts, how they function, how they might like to be touched or interacted with, what happens during orgasm, like just very kind of geeky, but also embodied. And I mean, this is my mission. All women need to know their parts, because we can't feel what we don't know we have. And we can't love what we don't know we have. And so, there's that real disconnection, just even because you can't see your parts. You need a freaking hand mirror, and you got to like, whoa, so it's no wonder like we don't know what we have. And for myself, this was my biggest revelation in the sex ed world. And it's just my pure joy to share this with anyone who wants to know, men, women, doesn't matter. So for all the attendees of the Womb Wellness Summit, this is my gift to you.
I love it. I'm like, my list needs this. There's a few boys I know that need this.
I've been known to do a little sexy teacher moment with partners, and go through my slides.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. I like it already.
Yeah, how helpful to everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just improving your relationship to yourself, but also the relationship you have with your partner, which is also so important,
Absolutely. Oh yeah. It's all of it.
Yeah. And bringing that trust into the conversation, and the comfort and the confidence, all of that is so important. And then we're all going to be having better sex.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that?
Common language to talk about what part is where, like, that's empowered sex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my God. Thank you so much for this conversation, and not just the practical knowledge, but the practical tips as well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Well, you're so welcome. It's my great joy to talk about this stuff. And thank you so much for putting on this summit where we're bringing all of this incredible information together in one place. So good.
Yeah, needs to be done. And like we've been saying, all of these teachers and all these experts, all of this comes together to your ultimate womb wellness. It's all of the bits and pieces that go together to make a really happy womb, which at the core of it is our very core of our feminine body. So
Yeah.
all of the spokes of the wheel, so to speak, are important to having that real sense of wellness. So thank you so much for joining us, Emily. Make sure that you guys grab her webinar. The link is right here for you. Click it, grab it, take it with you, set up slides, put on your outfit, maybe some glasses, and let us know what you think. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and we will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.